Welcome to the Birdnest Podcast. Your host Alberto Contreras. Today is episode 14. Today our special guest is.
Hi there. I'm Brian Niehoff, a friend of Alberto's, and happy to be here. Happy to share.
Thank you so much for coming on today's episode, Brian. I always start off the podcast. What is it that you do for an occupation?
Oh, sometimes I joke that I'm just an unemployed bum, but actually to make money, it's real estate investment, some amount of flipping, right. A little bit of sales also, but mainly investing. That would be how I make the majority of my money.
Awesome. When did you start, and when was it that you decided that this is what you wanted to do?
Well, I guess I should have clarified. I invest in real estate, and I got my start in real estate from my brother in college. My brother and mother, I guess my entrance into real estate was more of a osmosis event. It was already around me quite a bit. My mom's a real estate agent, and my brother became a real estate developer. I always wanted to not be poor anymore, so I was able to watch my brother make money and kind of see some of the opportunity that existed in real estate when I was in college. And that's kind of when I started deciding, like, this is something that I wanted to try. So I'd say my interest really started mid-college. I kind of just rode shotgun in the truck with my brother for a few years, kind of air quotes interned with him, tried to learn my way, talk to his associates too, and get some advice out of them.
Awesome.
And mid-college is like when I began the journey of real estate.
Well, we say timeline-wise, we're talking about a few years ago.
About 5 years, yeah. I'm 25 now. I'd say I was like 19 or 20 when I started paying attention to real estate.
Awesome. And what skills or certification did you have to acquire, in order for you to be able to do this field of work or be good at it, right?
I think investing, regardless of whether it's real estate or equities or cars even, it requires a multitude of skills. Not that I have them all, and I think there are certain ones that I could acquire and become better at it, but what does it take to be an investor? I think the first one is having some interest in philosophy, because a big part of investing, maybe the beginning part of investing, is like understanding why things happen and how they work and why people do what they do. Because every market involves people.
Right.
I guess now some equity markets are computers, but mainly you're dealing with people, so it's really good to learn how people work. So I'd say philosophy was a good one. And then some of the more hard skills would be finance. Even before I was interested in real estate, like I said, I didn't want to be poor, so I'm like, How do you not be poor? I'm like, you learn about money, and finance seemed to be the way to do that. So I got really into finance. I took a bunch of finance classes, and then I kind of like developed some online mentors. Nobody I've ever met, but just like individuals that I thought were really inspiring that were in finance. So I learned about finance. I also majored in accounting.
So that helped out a lot?
Yeah, accounting helps. It's one of those skills that you could probably learn via working, but to have it going in kind of helps, just to have a little bit of clarity on figuring out what goes where. So finance, accounting. I also minored in economics. That's more of a philosophy thing. So understanding how markets move and why they move.
And also, I know, because you guys, when you guys find deals, you guys have told me that one of the biggest skills is understanding people, trying to understand.
Oh, yeah.
Like, every person, every call is different. You have to know, because I've seen in the type of business where people do,
cold calls and stuff.
Cold calling. You have to have like this drive of not quitting. And so you call that same person, you see how they respond, and then you call them again maybe the next day or a week later. And I'm pretty sure it's like every person, some people are easier going, some people have an attitude, but you have to understand how to sort of approach them, right? From try to catch their attention versus them trying to just think of how quickly can I hang up this phone call, right?
Yeah. I would assume all cold calling's hard. Real estate cold calling's especially hard because these people, and it's a necessary skill. Like Alberto said, you got to be able to call on sellers and try to get them to sell their property. But the tough thing is, they know their property's worth something. They know if they're smart enough to buy a piece of property, they're smart enough to sell it. So they know how to go get an agent if they want to sell one. So you're really convincing them to do something that I would argue didn't want to do, or they were not planning on doing. So yeah, it's a hard hurdle to overcome. But yeah, people skills is incredibly important. It's something that I think I realized like mid-college, not even with real estate, but with everything, like being likable is something that can just get you so far along in life. My first entry into learning how to be likable was dating. Like,
right.
It was.
I think it's really important.
Yeah. I didn't get a whole lot of girls in high school, and I'm like, how do I fix this, and how do I become like someone that people want to talk to? So like dating was kind of my entry into like finding ways to get people to like me, trying to find ways that I become appealing. And I think women, just like, cold call prospects are kind of like a mirror to how you are as a person. If you're someone interesting, if you make yourself good looking, if you're funny, people want to talk to you. If you suck, they'll let you know pretty quickly.
If you're bland, or it's like, I've always heard from friends and also like females that the more interesting you are, like the more you have going on, the more they're intrigued to find out, like,
right,
because if you can tell your whole story like this, like real quick, what you do on a day-to-day basis, then it's not enough,
Yeah,
and
you got to be a bit of an enigma.
Me personally knowing you, like, how much you've changed since we met when I came in to work for your brother, and how much you've developed and you're changing, like how much things you're always doing. It's like, that's a lot. Like, like when you can have a conversation, say, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and just how much stuff you got going on. It's almost like you don't have enough hours for the day to a certain point. And so I've always loved being that type of person, and I know that.
I would say it goes both ways. Like same with you. Like I always I'm kind of knocked back when we haven't talked for a few months about everything that's been going on. I mean, you recently becoming engaged, buying a house, doing deals of your own. I'm always it's fun to have people that are
they share the drive.
Yeah, moving the ball forward.
Because it's nice to see, like, I've always seen you this way, and your brother also like my boss. He's always been the type of person, people that like to see others do well, versus like trying to keep you at the same position or keep you down. It's like it's nice to see that we're transitioning, and the more we do, the more that we can help each other at some extent in any road of our journey, right?
Yeah, I think at times we can all be a little bit greedy, but like remembering that there's an abundance of resources that are out there, and realizing that most of the people in this world aren't taking advantage of them. So like you might as well build up the people around you, because like your group's a small group, and there's plenty of resources to go around for your group. There's never any need to cut out one of your friends or family.
No, I've always felt that what's meant to be yours is yours. Like nobody will ever like take any deal that you got, because that deal, you got it, you closed it. There's nothing that keeps me from closing that deal unless I know that you tell me about a deal, then I go physically steal it from you. That's the only way. But it's really hard for, again, like especially in this type of real estate, is because you have to be a type of person, like a likable person. You have to be able to close the deal, right? And negotiate with them. And some people, I've seen where people, maybe a seller was not wanting to sell to this person because of how they were, but they were really willing to sell to someone else.
Yeah, it's really bizarre.
They're like, oh, like I like you, like like I'll sell it to you. And then because I've seen, I didn't want to sell it to him because of I don't like how he does this, or I didn't like his attitude. And I was like, again, like it's how you handle yourself that can really change, economic outcomes.
I mean, I agree. It's weird, like you say that about sellers. That if you're a seller of real estate or any asset, you should really just be worried about who's going to bring you the most money. But time and time again, we see that that's not the most important part for most people. because they want to work with someone that they can trust and that they actually like dealing with. And I think that comes at a higher value than a few extra dollars in their bank account after the deal closes.
Right.
And that's again where it becomes useful to learn about people and understand what makes people happy and upset with you. And I think the study of people is a really good area of study to become good at real estate or just investing in general.
Right.
You're never going to get away from people, so you might as well figure out how to deal with them. The whole idea of these people that are like proud to be an introvert and use that as an excuse to not learn how to be social.
Right.
I'm naturally introverted, and talking to people is like really stressful for me, and I get tired afterwards, but it's a necessary evil.
Yeah,
and it's like you got to learn how to do it.
To some extent, maybe we all start out as introverts.
Yeah.
And it's that having to understand that you have to, socialize with people, because, again, in any business venture I've seen or anybody that does well, says it's easier with people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you can't do things by yourself, you can do some things, but they say the example, like you're pushing a boulder, right? If you push the boulder by yourself to the finish line, at some point you'll be able to. But if you have 3 or 4 people helping you push it along the way, and you do it in, let's say it's 4 people, you do it in 25% of the time. Now you can do it 4 more times and have the same progress. And to some extent, maybe the boulder's even bigger on that side, right?
Right.
Because it's more of us that we can push it. So, I guess I've never understood the view of people who want to do everything by themselves. Or they don't want, they don't want anybody else to have a single dollar that's like theirs. And I mean, I see it from examples sometimes from subcontractors or even other contractors like general contractors or real estate agents where they don't tend to do as well. And I'm like, why? Because they're so set on holding that one deal. Yeah. That because of that, they let 10 others go because they're like, no, like we don't like working with him because he'll backstab you, or like he wants to do it on his own and he'll try to cut you out, and so you quickly, even though you think you're doing good for you, I think on the long run you're hurting yourself more than benefit.
Yeah. I mean, being a one man army, I don't think it's too good. And even when you see like friends that'll like you all go out to dinner or something, and when it comes to like paying the bill, they're always like making sure that like it's counted out to the dollar on like, oh, like I just want to pay for what I paid for. I'm not trying to cover you, even like if you had bought them dinner the night before. And it's just like, it's not that I just look at those people and it's like, it's not that I want your money, but like you should try to use generosity a little bit more, because when you're so worried about like holding everything and keeping it to yourself, you end up having less, like you said. Like when you have that abundance mindset is like I don't care about paying for this meal for you because like it's one meal, it's just a little bit of money, I'll go make more of it. It's just so much easier to live your life that way, and it's so much easier to deal with money when you're not worried about losing it, or worried about like keeping it all to yourself.
I've always told my fiance that I don't know what it's been. Maybe God's been super blessful with me, or the more I give, the more I'm getting. And I'm not giving to get, but I'm seeing that when I give, I quickly get that back. But no one takes that satisfaction of feeling good of being able to give, because again, we give because we want to, not because I'm giving, but before I give, I want to know what I'm getting back. Right.
It's not giving at that point. It's some sort of exchange.
So to some exchange, it's really on. You're giving, but you're thinking of, but I'm gonna come out winning later on. And I think if you go into any situation with that mindset, it's not gonna end well. Like you said, I was like, it doesn't. And again, I've been with friends like that too, that they wanna, oh no, I only got this.
Right.
Yeah. And so you quickly.
Yeah, they'll never spot you or anything where it's like.
But then you do it, or I do it like where sometimes I go out with my friends and I'll buy a round of shots, or I'll get an appetizer, but I do it not because I'm like, oh, what they might say, oh, you're dumb, like why are you spending more money? But I'm like, no, I do it because we're friends are to feel good, feel safe around, not
Yeah.
worried about how much money he has, or
Mm-hmm.
he has more money than me. Why am I doing this? He should be doing it. Like that's
that's a really good point. It's like the circle of trust.
Yeah,
like
it's a circle of trust. So.
I'm not worried about you taking advantage of me. It's like, I'm doing this. Maybe you'll do something. Maybe you won't. Like whatever.
Because we all have good days, but we also have bad days.
Yeah.
Like I know, I say this to where if a friend of mine knows that, they forgot their wallet, like I would cover for them on site, knowing that I know that they'll pay me back.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they do or don't, that's on them. But for the most part, though, it's like a character judgment, right? It's
right.
like, at least it reflects more about who I am as a person versus you forgot your wallet. That means, oh no, you don't need.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah, I've had friends like that.
Yeah,
I'm like, dude, we've known each other for like 2 years. You don't think I'm good for it? And if you really don't, like, why are we sitting at the same table together? Like, why you talk to me if that's how you feel?
And then in this field, I guess to some extent, sometimes it's good to see that because I'd rather lose a few dollars, than let those people in on real estate deals. Flipping, building homes.
Yeah.
I'm like, if they're showing you their true personality, like with that, what aren't they going to do to you?
Right.
With bigger sums of money, right? And so, you've been around people also, and your brother, being around your brother, seeing examples in him as well as far as bad apples. And what do? You have to separate yourself because that's the only way you can survive.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, that bad apple is going to try to take you down.
Mm-hmm.
Again, but some people are like that. I don't know. They're just real envious, or I don't know what it is. Maybe
trying to figure out, like, it's a lot easier for me to understand good than it is bad. Like when people are truly bad, it's like I'm always looking for like the reason of like what happened in their life to make them that way or whatnot. But it's like, why? Like the source of bad is something that's very hard for me to comprehend.
And it's almost like you want to understand them, like try to justify their actions.
Yeah, it's like, you have like some insecurity or something?
If you're a shitty person, you're going to be a shitty person.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's some of the, like, real struggles that we do have to face in this field, right? Mm-hmm. And then the next question I'd like to ask is, you've been doing this now for 5 years, but what do you think you average out, per year? Like, and I guess I like to tell the audience of, how's that progressed?
Yeah.
Because when we first met each other, you were working for your brother, and you were, in Central Builders, and you were working for him, and how has that progressed? And then, you stepped away with it because you were doing your own things. But even when you were with Central Builders, remember Illinois Avenue? Mm-hmm. Like, could you explain to us a little bit, how has your salary progressed or why it's progressed?
Yeah, so I when I was earning a salary, pretty much stayed the same. It was around like median like $50,000 a year, and then kind of the gravy on top of that was from investing. My first deal was flipping a rental property. My brother had given me a loan because like we went 50-50, and then he loaned me my capital contribution, I think at like 10 or 12%. So we flipped that, made some good money. I think that was like, got done with that like my first or second year, made like 60 grand on that.
On top of like
the salary. Yeah.
The salary.
And then I got lucky and cold called this old man that had inherited some property in the Nations, which is a little sub neighborhood in West Nashville.
Really popular.
Yeah, really popular. And this guy had been called a bunch, and it was kind of one of those just lucky calls. He'd been called a ton of times, and everybody was trying to buy his property, and I guess I just called on the right day and said the right thing to make him willing to sell the property. And so I got that under contract, and an opportunity existed to where I could have just flipped it and made like $50,000 on just like the contract, so I wouldn't have had to put any of my money into it. But, one thing that my brother's been really good, he's been like, he's provided a good window into like the importance of this is like the importance of like thinking in terms of opportunity cost. So, he kind of told me, he's like, yeah, you could go make that $60,000 and then have to go figure out like what else to do with it, or we can just build this lot that you've got under contract and you could make considerably more. Right. So that was cool. it was a cool thing to hear from him, and I'm like, let's do it. And I took my money, so I really didn't even get to touch the money. All I got to do was pay taxes on the renovation that I did. So I paid taxes and put all the money I made in that, along with pretty much all the money I had in my bank account, into this deal. I think I actually borrowed like maybe $4,000 extra from a friend just to make it happen.
Right.
Made sure to pay my friend off immediately, and then sat and let that deal go. So that, like, year 2 was pretty much construction of that. So maybe I think somehow I made like 70 or 80 that year. Then the next year we sold that property and made the salary, and then also I think made like 180 on that deal. So it was like,
wow,
like 220.
And we're talking about this was what, like 2021, right?
Yeah, 2021. 22, it was down a little bit. Like, I made the salary again, and then I wholesaled a property and made like 50 on that. So it's like up and down. The salary is consistent.
Right.
But I never really cared about the salary. It was always like trying to get the deal money.
Mm-hmm.
But the deal money was, it was always like, it looked like I'm making a lot of money, but I was always like putting my money back into deals.
Multiplying it. It's like you make the money, but you don't spend the money, which like most people in this world do.
Yeah.
You take the money and then you go make more money. So.
Yeah, and it's that sounds like oh yeah, of course I would do that, and on the outset, it sounds like, why wouldn't you just keep multiplying your money and flipping your money, and then like, why wouldn't you want to be, have a bunch of money when you're 30 or 35? But the reality of it is a lot different than it in theory. When you're down to like hardly any money, and you've got a loan on this project, and you're hoping it goes well, and you're trying to pay your rent or like buy your girlfriend an engagement ring.
Right.
All this stuff super stressful, and you're like, should I just start spending the money? And I've had times where I like spent way more of the profits than I should have. And
¿Me apagas la tele, por favor?
Yeah, that hurts a little bit. You get kind of frustrated with yourself for wasting money that could have been multiplied. But yeah, it's really stressful to have all your money in the game.
It's real people. I wouldn't say problems, but things that you have to do, right? Like it's nice to do those things because it's like you create memories to some extent.
Yeah.
So we can't always be, if we watched every single dollar, like, you could save it, but then, like you said, you might not have the engagement rate.
Yeah.
You might not get engaged and everything, which
in early 20s, like, I've been kind of done with my money at times, and don't really regret it. I think being stupid is a very necessary part of life. Making mistakes, just doing things that you'll look back and say like, man, I was ignorant. Well, it's better that like I can look back now and say, man, I was ignorant, than like not know like how ignorant it is to waste your money.
Right.
It's I don't know. I think my wife sometimes talks about like things that like she says like she regretted like drinking at house parties and stuff in college. I'm like, no, there's not like one thing stupid I did in college. Like, fortunately, I didn't ever get in like a drunk driving accident or anything, or like it got like, I'm not saying I was drunk driving, but I'm just saying I never had anything dramatic happen. But I think I'm proud of everything dumb that I've done, because it's like, it's a lesson, and I got it out of the way. And I don't know, making mistakes and doing dumb things is a very important part of becoming like a bigger and better person, I think.
Yeah, because if you hadn't done it, then when do you do it?
Right, yeah.
So it's
the earlier the better.
Yeah, I think to some extent, like we see it, do it in your early years versus, we have friends or colleagues of ours that maybe are still doing it.
Yeah, partying in their 30s and 40s with kids and stuff.
You start seeing, the difference
between,
what we're doing, what they're doing, what maybe someone who else is doing better. And you tend to see that the people that are doing better aren't doing the partying, the overspending, so... It's these years that really start mattering, like 20, mid 20s to
30s, 40s especially,
30s, because that will set you up for how your life plays out. Yeah,
it kind of creates the runway. My brother Buck has a really good saying that it's a lot harder to adhere to than you'd think, but he always talks about when you're young, fun is cheap, money is expensive. Like, it's hard to make a lot of money when you're young, but it's easy to have a lot of fun. When you're old, fun is expensive, money is cheap. You know, when you're old, you've got kids, you've got a day job, you've got like all these demands that they don't allow you to go, you know, travel down to Mexico and party for a week, or you know, just screw off and, you know, or just waste your money on like a car and go have a bunch of fun. Like there's I think there's a lot of truth to that. Like just
it's
prioritizing, like
it feels like responsibility wise. Like it's, you have to provide, you know, versus when you're young, it's like whatever you do only impacts you. So it's like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
You know? Like, cause I guess us or, you know, man, we can survive off the little things, you know,
right?
Like if we have like $20 in our pocket, we can make it, like work for a day.
Yeah.
Versus again, I feel when that day happens, when you know, you have a wife and kids and, you know, right now we have mortgages, but you have everything else, like just keep things piling on top. It's almost like you can't.
Yeah, you can't let off.
You can't have fun, because the moment you let off a little bit, I mean, it's a snowball effect, right?
Yeah.
It'll just get bigger and bigger.
I do think it's important to, like, I mean, I feel like a lot of people could justify being irresponsible in their early 20s or in their early life, like because of like that same statement, like, oh, we're supposed to have fun when you're young. But I think a lot of people, I've got a lot of friends that are, you know, not making much money, that are my age, and they're you know, they're not making money, but they're not having fun either. Right. They're smoking weed, sitting at home, just taking it easy. And it's like, no, if you're going to go have fun, like make it an active effort to have fun. Like go travel, go meet crazy people, you know, go on adventures.
But that stuff costs money. And so that's the problem, that some of them.
But it's usually not even a money thing. It's like a
drive, maybe.
Yeah, drive is such a hard thing to find in people now. I mean, sometimes it's money, but you can have local fun. You could go to waterfalls in Tennessee and
we have tons of them.
Yeah, do stuff like that. So
do things that are beneficial
experience,
to you versus things that are just hurting you.
Yeah,
because doing drugs, doing alcohol, that has, you know, negative effects. Not only
those are simulations
psychological,
for fun,
but also even on the body. I mean, your organs will start failing. And so if you knew you were poisoning your body, you know, like, would you do it, right? And so, you know, I still have friends that do that, and I'm like, you know, good for them.
Yeah.
But don't complain when you're seeing like, oh, you know, sometimes I have friends that say, wow, like, you know, you have 2 houses, or wow, you just got this truck, or I was able to get my mom a car out this weekend. And I was like, yeah, like that's what happens when you work and you don't overspend and you save your money. I was like, you're able to do these bigger blessings. And for me, that's like a milestone thing that I've always wanted to do in my life. Like from here, I'm 28 and I can look back and I'm starting to see checks, or just having to do checks or see a list that wasn't checked off.
Right.
When I'm closer to my retirement age. Or my parents pass away and I couldn't do this.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that. And I wish I would have done this. But all this wishing, I mean, you have to sort of at some point look at the mirror and say, where did I mess up, or why was I so irresponsible? Because I didn't take it serious enough. Yeah. And so, I mean, I guess the quicker that somebody realizes that, the quicker your life will change. You know, because you know, you're 25 and you're doing amazing things. A good friend of yours, and mine as well, that I'd like to have on the show one day also is Nick. Yeah. Seeing how much his life's changed. Because again, he was around your other friends. Because Brian would have friends that would come out there and help us clean, right?
Yeah, kind of clean the construction debris around the job sites.
So they were doing just like, you know, hours.
Yeah, menial labor.
Manual labor. And so they were working when there was work. So that means what were they doing when they weren't doing? Not working. And so I know that it was during that college time, but Nick is somebody that I saw like change drastically. Like I always, since I met you, I always saw that you were gonna have this drive. Like you've always been focused. Like you're very like set on and.
I'm driven. I don't know if I'm focused. Focus is something that I think I could always work on and follow through.
Right, but I mean, again, you can meet somebody and be like, wow, like he's gonna be somebody. Yeah. Or he wants to be somebody, and you can see that, like the drive of self-improvement, which I've always seen in you, whether you're trying to buy a car to flip something, right? You're always, it's like you can't stay like in place.
Boredom's terrible.
It's good, and it's great. And so those are those type of characteristics that if you as the audience, you have that, right? With small things, those doesn't have to be expensive things, but if you like flipping, shoes, cars, anything, right? Anything minuscule. I mean, that says something about like your type of driver, that mindset that you're starting to like crank.
Yeah. I think it's really important. I don't know. I mean, my opinion, it's really important that like your gears are turning towards something. You've got action coming out of your body. You don't like boredom, whether it's like just always be flipping stuff, or if you're a creative type, like always be creating, always be recording and editing, like whatever it is that drives you. Make sure that it's actually driving you and moving you and right. like prompting action. I think so long as you're always moving, that's really important on forward progress in life.
Because again, like as long as we all have our different ladder, right?
Yeah.
But as long as you're going up that ladder a little bit day by day, a year passes by, 5 years passes by, you turn back. I mean, you see that difference,
right?
And so, you compared to your friends, I mean, you can start. I mean, I'm pretty sure you've seen just how much difference. Could it have played a part where your brother was, telling you like,
yeah. I think,
but I mean that's a blessing. You
absolutely
know what I'm saying?
Helped. Yeah,
because you could have easily been that, that person that like, don't tell me what to do. Combat it. Be super. No, I don't want to listen, or again, like I think anything that happens is always for the benefit of a person. Whenever I tell my brothers, hey, I want you guys to do better or try harder, them doing better is not for me.
Right. Yeah.
It's like I'm seeing and wanting better for them. Because I don't want to be in a place where if I become very good and they're not there, they say, oh, you never helped out, you never did anything. I'm like, I mean, you can't force, a cow to drink water.
Yeah, horse to water.
Yeah, right. Bring the horse to the water. You can bring him to the lake, but if he doesn't want to drink,
yeah, that's a big thing.
If he dies of dehydration, like
right,
it's there. Like,
it's
and so it's one of those things where it's been amazing seeing you these past few years. It feels like it's been a long time, but it hasn't. I mean, it's been 4 years. We're barely coming on 4 years.
Yeah.
And so the way I see that is I see elementary, middle school, high school, college. I joined in August 2020, so my 4-year closeout would be 2024 August.
Yeah, that's why I never thought about that. Like we have like 4-year seasons to life mainly, or like the way it's been so far.
Yeah, because again, you've seen
it's like 4 to 5 years every section in your life.
Change, you go from getting salary, getting paid salary for buck, and then you're doing these deals, and they're real estate deals that are good. Like when you did it, Illinois, like you said, like it was a lot of money. It's life-changing money. And you continue to, again, make the money work for you. But, you could have easily spent it also, right?
Sure.
And so some people know how to appreciate blessings and take advantage versus others, oh, wow, we have a good payday. Let's
just enjoy the blessing rather than, paying it forward into your life.
And you're 25. Like right now you can sacrifice a little bit versus having to work when you're 65 or having to work farther because you decided to spend all your money and not have it, right? So I think that's something that you really do have to have like discipline in this field, because you can quickly, spend the money. I mean, it's real easy to spend money.
Especially in real estate too. It takes a lot of discipline because, you can make a lot of money in real estate really quickly, but you're playing with, some things that are extremely heavy and dangerous, which is leverage. Leverage is it's pretty amazing how much you can lever yourself in real estate, especially just being like a nobody first time home buyer. Like somebody can get like I don't even know what it's like 10x leverage essentially, but 10% or less down on a home. No stock brokerage is going to give you 10x leverage if you've never shown if you don't have any balance sheet and you don't have any previous investing experience. Right. So it's like really the only place where you're going to get access to that much leverage. But that leverage is something that can all it does is magnify outcomes. You can magnify a good outcome. It's like you do a development and you didn't have to put much cash in, and then you get to like essentially 10x or like 10x like the cash you put in. Or you can be goofy, you can spend all your money, and then like you're halfway through the construction project and you got to put more money in, or like you're 3/4 of the way done, you're out of the loan money, and like you needed to have some of that cash that you spent on, I don't know, a nice truck or something, and now what do? You get foreclosed on, you're bankrupt, you have 10 years of a huge mark against your credit, you can never get another loan for those 10 years, so it's like it's extremely dangerous, and yeah, you do have to be careful on taking the short-sighted route of being like, you know, I'm going to spend my money and I'm just going to have a good time.
You can take like a wrong step. Like,
oh yeah,
real estate.
We're about to see it. We're about to see a lot of people go bankrupt. I think real estate's going to slow down, and I think a lot of people were making bad moves in the real estate market, but no one ever told them that it was a bad move because the market was moving up so fast that like they never learned their lesson. And you know, even if the market doesn't go down, but it just goes flat, you know, houses don't appreciate like they did before. Mm-hmm. That safety net that those guys making the bad moves had has now disappeared. So, you know, now they're going to realize, oh man, my assumption on how much this house would cost to renovate was way off. Or
return would be because we projecting it being done or rented out for a year or two, and they do it with the, you know, yearly appreciation, right? Like percentages.
Yeah.
But you know, if interest rates stay high, it stays stagnant. I mean, you lose money because you have to give back to some extent, like hard money lenders or people pulling money from other guys. You do that promising them
a return.
Yeah. And so if you don't promise them a return, then it's like they start, you know, hey, I want my money, like, and so, I mean, it's really weird what we've been seeing that the market's been doing. And what it's going to do. I'm really, I guess, curious to see what's going to happen, especially around election time.
Yeah, me too. I feel
there's
like
a lot of like
it's a dice roll,
like confusement. I hope, you know, it plays out good where we're not negatively affected. That's the only thing I can ask for. I mean, you know, in my personal opinion, I'm not red or blue. I'm more of economy. Yeah, I'm like, don't fuck up our economy. And you know, quit spending. That's all I can say.
Right. Yeah.
Like, as far as
that's all you can hope for is just like to slow down the spend. But I feel like, you know, we can hope for the best, and hopefully that happens. And if it doesn't, I don't know. I think like someone like you, even if the market turns and you're completely upside down, like I think there's just certain people that you could lose everything and still you'd find a way to claw your way back up. I mean, maybe there'd be a few bad years, but like as long as you keep trying to self-improve with your skills, and you're always willing to, you know, put effort into the game, it doesn't matter what happens. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be construction. It could be a different field. It's just, again, it's those type of skills that, you know, knowing how to make money, right? Which all this is a money standpoint, right? Knowing how to make money, not spend it. Why? Because save for a rainy day. So when these rainy days come, we're good. Yeah. You know, are you good that you're celebrating? No. But you're good. Like, you can take out fire to put into the chimney. They're like, okay, we have it stacked up. Right. Yeah. And to where we're not freezing to death. And some people, instead of having like firewood, they owe firewood. Yeah. And so, you know, their chimney runs out and they're trying to get more, but no one has any more. So that's why you're seeing all these subcontractors and some of these smaller GCs fall because they left no reservoir. Right. Like I've seen, you know, some of our subcontractors, they had nice trucks. Like, remember, like year after year, just tons of them. And I'm like, where'd they go? They had to sell it off because now that and to some extent that was their reservoir. And I'm like, why? I know you lost on it because any vehicle depreciates, especially driving it that much. So I don't know. It's weird to try to understand how other people think or why they do those things. And those are the guys that are saying, hey, I need to, you know, when can I get paid now? Now they're having a money struggle. Yeah, and I'm like, it's a lot tighter. All those years of blessings. And we told them.
Yeah, you never set anything aside. And I don't know. I mean, it's, I don't know, you look at the type of people, the type of men who make it in the world, and bravery is a big portion of it, and like fearlessness, I think, is why you see some men really do well, especially in like a really good market. You'll see, guys that are just ballsy and they're like, hiring people, buying trucks, like going out there, or like picking up as many jobs as they can. They don't care what job it is; they're going to keep picking it up. And the world gives them money because like they're out there taking it. And I think there's like a big thing to be learned from those type of people. Like you got to go out there and you got to take what's yours. I mean, otherwise no one's going to hand it to you. They're going to take it from themselves, and that's how it should be. But I think a side effect of that type of mentality is you believe in yourself a little too much, and
you believe it's fine.
Yeah, you think it's fine, and you believe that no matter what happens, I'm a strong guy. I figured it out this time. I'll figure it out again. I don't need to save.
We'll go
I'm
find
the
more
boss.
jobs. We'll go do this. But I'm like, but when you're not finding anything.
Yeah, when it dries up.
I was like, which again, maybe overconfidence can be a consequence.
Yeah. I think that's probably why you see a lot of those guys that were making it never put anything aside, because it's like, why would I? Like, why would I be a baby and not put all my money back onto the table? I'm a big dog, and I think it takes. That's when it becomes really useful to learn from, especially in real estate, like the guys who have been through a bear market or a recession. Warren Buffett has more money than any of us, and he still saves, and he still keeps a bunch of cash in reserves. Mm-hmm. If he needs to, don't think that you don't need to, and that really helps, because Warren Buffett has kahunas. I mean, he's not afraid to do what it takes, but he's still keeping reserves.
Because even though he knows he's on top, he knows
he knows what can happen. He's been through down times, and the other thing about like you kind of, I guess in some ways you're being a wimp if you keep reserves, because like you could have been putting all that money to work and you could have been taking more for yourself. But then when it comes to like a bad time, if you've got cash, you really win, because everybody else doesn't have cash. And you can eat everybody up. Like you become the big fish.
I hear that a lot. That during like these bad times, the people with money are the ones that come out winning, because people have to give things away because they can't afford them.
Yeah, 50 cents on the dollar, or even less. That's
and it's a bad time. And for most part of history, the bad times pass, which you would assume that again everything will pass at a certain point. So when you're buying 50 cents on the dollar or cheaper, right? As long as you're up, and then that dollar turns into $2 because the way real estate goes up, right? Doubles, triples, right? Just has gone up infinite amount. I mean, that's where they say more millionaires get made during bad times. And like,
I guess during bad times, like you're buying 50 cents on the dollar hoping it goes up, but like I don't know, there's like this theory that I thought of. I don't really know how to phrase it, but I'm just like, I'll be screwed anyway theory, which is like Warren Buffett, let's say the market's gone way down and he's out there buying stuff for 30 or 50 cents on the dollar, but he still wonders like, will the U.S. market ever come back, or is the U.S. market screwed? Well, if it's screwed, he's going into the trash can anyway, because all his money's in dollars anyway. So like, you might as well take the bet, because you're dead either way. So at least in the outcome where you don't die, you come out rich. Right.
And so the outcomes when this has happened, right? I mean, he's done very well, and the people who have done it, right? You sort of try to some extent follow the train, right? Everybody who does this,
they clean up.
For most part of history, has cleaned up and done extremely well. So, I mean, to some degree, you have to understand that that should work out,
right?
Because if the people with money are doing it, then, like you said, if we're screwed, then we're all screwed. At some point, then
you might as well just go and commit.
And then, watching with the podcast here with the audience, I always like asking something, some questions of recommendations for them, or imagine that someone was asking you a question. Is what can someone watching you right now be able to do or has to do to be able to get started in your field of work? Let's say somebody with like zero experience that through this podcast is seeing it, and he's like, wow. Like,
yeah. I feel like me answering that question, I might make some other guys in real estate mad because they, they'll be like, no, that's not how you get into real estate. But we all have to just go off of what got us to where we were at. So I would say, on a broad level, become obsessed with the cost of things. That's probably what's made me decent at making deals is like, I don't know why, but even since I was a kid, I would use incorrect English and ask my dad, like, how much did that costed? That was like always what I asked. I was like, how much did that cost? How much did that cost? Another question I always asked was why. So I think being really good with prices helps because when the time comes that you see an opportunity, you don't even need to think about what's the price. You can kind of have it, 80% of the way there in your head. And I think you can do that with anything. You can do that with cars. I mean, you show me a used car, I'm probably going to get within $2,000 or $3,000 of what it's worth just by like looking at it and knowing the mileage. And same with real estate. If you can like just be decent at knowing what stuff costs and, the tools available now to young guys trying to get into real estate are really good. I mean, I've always had access to them because I'm a young guy too, but like Zillow, even if you don't have a real estate license, you can get on Zillow. If you really want to get into real estate, spend 6 months every day looking at the new listings on Zillow and in your head developing, kind of a map of costs. Something in Laverne should cost, I don't know, $300,000 to $600,000. Something in Green Hills probably starts at $800,000 and goes up to $3-4 million. I'm talking about residential. So yeah, figure out how much things cost. That's a really important part.
So when a deal comes up, like you see a house under asking, and then you quickly tell, and oh yeah, if we put $50,000, I get that. There's a house for $220,000, and then Zillow shows you this, what's sold around that area, and it says it's selling for $375,000, and let's say your house has more square footage or less, but it's around there, and so of course at $220,000 it probably needs some care. So you can see other houses that have sold. So you always try to look at what I try to do is I like to look at the least improved house because what did that sell for? And so that's where I have to be at.
That's pretty smart. That's your bottom.
Yeah, that's the bottom.
Yeah.
And so that means that you can come in and put, like the flooring in my house looks nice, but I know it's cheap, but it works. LVP flooring, give a quick coat on the house, install some cabinets, a backsplash.
Yeah, you know what numbers you can get.
And so, put $50,000 into the house. So, you're in there for $270,000 and you're going to exit at $370,000. I mean, that's a done deal. Like, what your brother has told me, the biggest thing in making any deal, like trying to investment, he says, it doesn't matter about the money. It's about the deal.
Yeah. Yeah. The quality of the deal.
He says you have to have a good deal. He said, because if you have a good deal, there's always people with money that are willing to ride the wave with you.
Yeah.
As long as
money's always looking to multiply itself.
Yeah. So he says, don't worry about the money so much, as long as you have an understanding where it is, where it could be. He's like, come with a deal and you'll get taken care of. Because as far as, again, like you said, you could just find a deal and not even have to invest any money, which you did a deal, right, where you just
I've had a few that way where it's just like
so where you can just pass a contract, earn an extra $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 just for what's it called, like wholesaling?
Wholesaling, yeah, or even if you find a deal that's really good enough. Wholesaling is always going to be the kind of like the quick and easy route, and there's another way. Like if you've got a really good deal, you can bring it to a money guy and say, hey, this is going to make us good money. Right. I don't have any cash, but I've got the deal, and I want you to put up all the money or most of it and give me a portion of the profits, and I'll manage it, and
I'll do all the work.
Yeah, I'll do all the work. And if it's good enough and the guy believes in you enough, he'll probably take the deal, and you'll probably make more than if you just wholesaled it, but not always. The other thing is like, learning the cost of things, but learning how to pull the trigger. Everybody watching this and all of us talking, we act like, no big deal to pull the trigger up until your finger's on the trigger.
Right.
You'll realize a lot of people back away. I've got friends that I've tried to put them, they want to buy a car, and I'm like, okay, I send them a link to a thing on Facebook that I'm like, I'm going to buy this if you don't buy it, but here's a good deal. And like, I don't know, I need it. How many mileage does it have? I'm like, dude, don't worry about it. It's a good deal. Go ahead and buy it. And like,
because you've already done, like, you looked at it, you're like, it makes sense, and you're trying to help them out.
I'm fine. I would like, I'm like, if I'm not thinking about it anymore, I know more about cars than you do. You don't need to think about it anymore. You just need to pull the trigger.
So if you verified it, pull it. But again, you have these,
and they won't pull the trigger,
no.
and then I go and buy it right after them. I'm like, and I love rubbing into people's faces. Like, I'll show them how much money I made. I'm like, you should have bought it.
But it's
I rub it in their face so like they'll pull the trigger next time.
Because to some extent, again, it's not being, respectfully, not being man enough to, like, do it.
Yeah,
just
have the balls to make it happen.
Like quit being scared. Like, like if you're scared and you don't do things because, again, like before they buy the car, they're looking at all negative. I'm like, all negatives can be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, as long as the car is driving right. And so with real estate, that's housing is a little bit more complicated. But on a car scenario, does the car drive good? Is it does it look intact to where, as long as it doesn't look like it's about to fall off?
Yeah.
Cool. And you're under, you know that, like, right now I got my mom a really good deal where I couldn't believe how cheap it was.
Yeah. And
we took it, and we saved, again, like $3,000 or $4,000. Like I told her, I was like, you can keep the car or you could sell it. And $3,000 or $4,000, the deals sometimes come up. People need money.
Yeah, all the time.
But we weren't scared to do it because I was like, I was already ready.
Yeah, you had the cash,
like looking for it.
Yeah.
But I was like, it's a good car. You want it. You're happy with it. Keep it. But just know that you can keep the car also, or even if you don't want to sell it right away, you can keep a car for a year, 2 or 3, and sell it for the exact same.
Yeah, and you're in it for free. Point,
your car isn't, because they say, cars are the biggest depreciated asset.
Yeah.
If you're sort of in a position where your car isn't depreciated like that because you found a deal or something, and I mean, you're beating the worst outcome scenario that is said.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
you're buying a car, but it actually is a positive. Yeah, and you can make money with anything that has a dollar value. And I think cars are a really good place for people to start, even in real estate. Like, because if you're looking to start, you probably don't have much money.
Right.
And cars are something small enough to, like, that you should be able to afford it. And if you can't, you should probably work a little bit more and then get into real estate. Unless you're just really obsessed with real estate. But if you go buy a car and have that scary feeling of jumping into something, buy a car with the intent to flip it. And you're going to be scared about, like, what if the tires are bad? What if this is bad? Learn how to quantify all of those, risks. How much the tires cost? $1,000. Alternator, $250. Like, all these things you're worried about might be wrong. Go ahead and quantify them. And even if these things are bad and it's still a good deal, we'll go ahead and buy it.
Because all the other negatives are assumptions.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they say this could go out, but if it doesn't go out in a year or two, or, like, again, because some people, you get the car, you deep clean it, and you sell it. I'm like, if it has okay tires on it, that's not your deal. Like, whoever's gonna buy the car and wants to keep it, then unless you're gonna keep it, then you're gonna invest into it. So again, like, a lot of people, they want to make a huge list of negatives to sort of convince yourself to not do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, and if you're convincing yourself to not do it, then
people don't want to be rich. That's really what it comes down to. I mean, I think on some level, so people that want to be rich and just life is super unlucky for them, and maybe they weren't born smart enough, or maybe they have something in their life that's bringing them down. But I think for a lot of people, people talk about wanting to be rich, but then when it actually comes to pulling the trigger, and I'm not rich myself by any means, but I'm just saying, like, I want to be rich, and I'm hope to make the
but we know we're trying.
Yeah, I'm trying to get there, and
we know that we're better when we were where we used to be.
Yeah,
I know you guys have told me a little bit about how y'all grew up, which a lot of people would say, just maybe looking at you, he probably grew up, like, privileged, and I'm like, no, like, you guys grew up,
one of the poorer kids at school, which wasn't that bad, but it's still like growing up in Brentwood. It wasn't like
right, but to some extent, you can't dictate how you were born, but still, though, you see yourself and you see that you weren't as good.
Yeah.
And you guys wanted to change something, and then you see the change happening. Again, you guys could have easily, there's some people who, because they're bad, all they do is, instead of trying to self-improve, continue to blame.
They cry about it. They blame.
So they do drugs. I do drugs, or I don't work hard because I wasn't loved.
My dad was bad, or whatever.
He beat me, or my dad didn't do this, or
it could be true.
Yeah, it could be true, but you decide to stay down.
Yeah, you got to keep moving.
And there's something that's made you want to improve yourself. Same thing with me. I was like, I grew up, and I've told you a little bit about my story, right? Where it's like we were living in a 2-bedroom. It was 5 of us. Like, for years. Not a year. I mean, we lived in that house. We rented for 14 years. And so I understood that, my dad could only provide so much. And so I told myself as soon as I could, I was like, I would do everything in my power to change not just my life, but also their life.
Yeah.
And I think I'm doing okay. Not because of where we're at. Am I happy? Like I tell, a lot of people, they're like, oh, you're doing great. I was like, that's good. And at least I know that I'm doing okay.
Right.
I don't let that stuff get to my head. I always remain humble. Why? Because I always like seeing like mentors of mine or like your brother or you guys that whenever you guys do good, I'm like, wow, like the possibilities of what can be.
Yeah.
So I always, even though some
people
it
helps to have mentors that are way ahead in you in life because you realize that like, there's still a lot left in the tank for me to push on, and
it's good to see also the age
possible
difference,
yeah,
because it's like it's okay for you not to be there to
to
some extent. They're like they're 10 years older. You have 10 years.
Yeah, that's what's so dangerous about like social media and stuff too. Is like you see these like 22-year-olds with like millions, and you're like, well, why am I such a loser? And then you meet like normal people, and it's like you'll meet a rich guy, but he's like 35 or 40, and he didn't start really hitting it till he was like 28 or 29, and that's more realistic. I think a lot of men now are kind of stuck in the mud because they're mad that they're not a millionaire already.
Yeah, they want to do it overnight.
It's okay to make, $90,000 versus what are you making now? Getting upset that you're not a millionaire, you're making $0 or like you're doing Uber Eats. Like
$90,000 in 10 years, you would have earned $900,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Versus if you're sitting here trying to worry about how can I make $1 million tomorrow or in a month, and because I talk about it a little bit. I do it also, but I don't do it religiously because I know I just do it for fun to some extent. I was like, who knows if it hits one day, but people who like to gamble, like betting, you like on sports and parlays and all that. I'm like, yeah, but there's people who, again, they win 90 grand and instead of saving everything they saved, they were trying to, hit a lottery or, try to accelerate something versus try to create something.
Right. Yeah.
And so I guess to some extent you have to earn the income versus trying to cheat the income. I was like, some people are blessed. Like, again, some people, but I don't even think it's that they're blessed. Like, YouTubers or influencers, there's people who've been doing this for a year.
Yeah, they're probably extremely talented, first of all, and second of all,
like some of these
probably extremely it's like talent and luck, and
it was their turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I've seen some of these guys that have blown up, and people say they blow up because nobody knew who they were last year. I'm like, yeah, but if you see how long they've been doing it. Like there was this one kid who he's been recording since he was a little kid. He was like
with nothing
12 years old, nothing. Like he was just doing it for fun. And because he was so passionate, it turned into that.
Yeah.
But people think, oh no, I want to do what he does, but only want to grind for 3 months. And
it's like, do you really want to do it? That's the other question.
Because they want to do it because of the income, not because of the field, or not because it makes them happy. Like I told you, I like waking up every day, doing what I do to some extent because I like it. I think it's in me. I like to show up and see something that's disgusting or something that's not there, and we leave, and you leave a home for someone that we're prideful in.
Yeah,
like we don't like doing shitty stuff. We don't like doing just for profit. Like yes, profits are important, but we don't try to keep every single dollar in our pocket and try to at the homeowner's expense. We always put quality stuff in our homes. Like we don't do wire shelving. We don't do carpet. Like those are things that we could do because they're like, oh yeah, put more money. But when you see the numbers, it's not a drastic difference. Versus you feel better when you're selling the home because, in my opinion, it's like you're not hitting them so hard.
Yeah.
Because they're truly happy with because.
Leaving a little bit on the table is sometimes a good thing. Put a little bit more effort into it than you had to.
Because they talk about you, they're like, "Wow, Century Builders, wow, Brian, they do good homes." I'm like, we take pride in that versus having to hide our name or feel embarrassed because his homes are like, and I'm just gonna throw it out there. People say this all the time, like DR homes. They say, "Oh, you got a DR home? Wow, your home's probably shitty."
Yeah.
And I'm like, imagine this is
somebody's biggest investment
that's
or purchase.
A franchise like you would say to some extent like a McDonald's. They have homes everywhere, and people know them as homes that are shitty.
Yeah,
but people pay them because
they need a home.
They need a home, and that's where they have to be at. But they're okay with they sell cabinets with no handles, like shit, like problems like foundation cracks and unlevelness. And why? Because they're so big that they can put money into the right places. To let them look the other way.
Yeah, and it's like, why would you want to be part of that? Like, one of my big, one of the things that holds me back probably is like worrying about like how do I actually be important and like push the human ball forward in some way. Like how do I actually contribute? And that's still something that I'm trying to figure out. But like I ultimately like to be somewhere where I'm like actually, helping people and moving the world along versus like even just making your own money. Like, yeah, that's cool. But like what's the point? Like if you could actually like improve other people's lives and create something that you're really proud of, that like people are excited about, that sounds like a lot more fun.
It gives your life like
than
more
being
meaning,
10 times
more
wealthier,
purpose.
just being alone. It kind of goes back to what you were saying originally. Like some people just want to be by themselves, and it's like,
and it's like, oh,
it's pretty lonely.
it's all for me, yeah.
And
so what's the point of being at the top of the hill of success if everybody's just waiting for you to come down to stone you to death? I was like, why? Because the reason you got up there was because climbing on people's backs or taking from people. And when you say that, it's always been something that's always been super important to me as well. That for some reason, I don't know why, I find it almost like a responsibility of mine to try to be better, like to improve the world for those around me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that shows in the effort you put into the jobs. Like you could care a lot less, and you're always trying to make sure that the subs are good and make sure you're getting a good deal for everybody. And yeah, you're like on the jobs asking probably more questions about like making sure you're getting it right than you had to. Like, yeah, it's pretty evident that you care about it more than your job description tells you to care about.
Yeah, because the job, people live their lives of doing the bare minimum because I get paid to do the bare minimum.
And when you're working for a machine, like a big corporation, it's probably a lot easier to do that. Yeah. Like, you don't care.
But even still then, though, that's why you never get off of the machine.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're like, no, this person is not somebody you want to have up here. Because, again, that mindset you have is, it follows. It doesn't matter because if you feel like you're that getting paid, let's say 40 grand, and they jump you up to 80 grand, you'll be happy for a few months. But if you have that poor mindset, in a year, you'll be in the same position. Put that same person, give them 200K. In a year or two, it'll be the same shit because it's who you are. It's your mindset.
Yeah.
It's always wanting more, but not trying to like do more, right? Like I've always said that the people who stay the extra hours, do the extra work is the people that I guess coincidentally do better. Because if we're doing more, let's say, if I do more for your brother, I'm like, well, if the day comes that I do get something else, in my head, I was like, he would have seen that I deserved it.
Right.
Versus me having to ask him or beg him. Because at that point, I don't deserve it. I want what's coming for me naturally, not requiring it. Because if it doesn't come, and it may not be, again, your brother or anybody else, right? In this scenario, is what's meant for you is you. Not everybody's going to see the same worth in you as you may think for yourself. So that's why you have to associate yourself with different people that maybe do see that value. But as long as you see that value in yourself,
and keep creating that value and working on that value. I think
because if you give up on yourself,
chases you.
Like it's over. Like you have to believe in yourself before someone else believes in you.
Yeah. Especially, someone wanting to do real estate. Likely, if you're watching this and trying to become better, you don't have enough money to do it yourself. You're going to have to be someone that people see value in, and that it's probably frustrating to not hear like a 3-step solution on how to make money in real estate. But like the real thing is like work on yourself. Learn how to speak effectively. Learn how to make people like you. Learn how to understand investments and show people that you understand investments. Just learn how to provide value. Learn how to make other people's investments better. When you're young, you don't have. I heard this from one of my like online mentors. But when you're young, you don't have enough money to keep multiplying into billions. Nobody's going to take $5,000 and turn it into $1 million just via their own investments. If you could, you'd be running probably like Goldman Sachs because you'd be one of the best investors in the world.
Right.
You're better off learning a skill that somebody wealthier than you needs and helping them make money for a long time until you have enough money to start making your own money or like putting your own money into it.
Right.
And finding a good deal is technically a skill that helps other people get richer because like you're going to bring that good deal to someone who is wealthier than you and give him a big piece of the pie. Yeah. So it's like at the end of the day, you kind of are doing it to make him richer, and you're doing it to give yourself a start in the game. But
you're doing it because if it wasn't for him, you don't get that piece of the pie.
Right. Yeah.
Like, a lot of us are set on having the bigger piece of the pie, but I say when you start off, you have to know that the other person takes.
Yeah.
The person
you're not worthy of
the
big piece of the pie either.
Gets the bigger piece. But if you save your piece and you save it again and you save it again, next thing you know, maybe in this next deal, because again, now 2 or 3 deals, let's say, have worked out with us. When I come on the 5th or 6th and multiple deals, you say yes automatically. But now I change something where like, hey, do you mind if in this deal we go?
You get a little bigger slice of a bigger
pie. I get a bigger slice because now I have some pie left over, or cash left over that now I can
contribute,
put a little bit. And he's like, okay, cool. I've never had to watch him. I've never had to do anything.
Yeah.
And again, if you save your slices and they get bigger, at some point down the road, if you do it, like religiously, you may find yourself getting a bigger piece of the pie.
Right.
Why? Because he's like, okay, well now I only need to let him borrow a little bit, and it's a quicker return. And I know that I've done deals with this person now 10, 20, or 2, 3 years, etc. Now it becomes, but again, you have to earn it because you weren't in a position to earn anything. Like
when you were young, and now the guy trusts you more, and he realizes that other people are going to want you too, and he's going to pay more for you. I mean, you look at this is just like a little side track bit, but like the CEOs, how much they're making now. The CEO of Disney, I think, makes in the tens of millions every single year. He's got the same heart that you do, the same brain that you do, the same biceps and triceps. Like, it's the same human being. Why is he making so much more money with the same tools as you? Well, he knows how to use them better, and he's probably spent a lot of money in education, a lot of time in education, and time creating skills to become as valuable as he is. I mean, at the end of the day, he's the same human as you are. You guys are the same species, yet he's worth 10,000 times more than you are. And that's all a matter of just how valuable he is to other people.
And what he did, like how much he's put into it.
Yeah, right? He's probably making them more money than his salary.
But we don't see, how long it took him to get there.
Right.
Or what he had to do as far as like, how many years of maybe being underpaid or doing that extra work. Because again, you're never going to put somebody in those positions of trust if you don't trust that person.
Right. Yeah, they probably had to give some trust.
Yeah, you can quickly like tank a company. So you have to know that he's ready. He's earned it. Why? Because when you let someone else make money, it's because, in my opinion, he's earned it. I see him taking care of the company as much as if it was his. Yeah. And if I'm not here, like watching him, it'll be fine. Right. Nah, he's only doing his job when I'm here. Yeah, yeah. Because at that point, then you can't be there, right? So it's self-accountability. And so, I
think really that mindset would help so many people, even like not in real estate or like, people that want to go into real estate and do their own thing. It's like, maybe if you're in a career or you work at a company, instead of like always being worried about going to do it on your own, like, go try to make the guy above you richer. And that sounds like wimpy, and you're like, why would I want to make somebody else richer? But it's like, unless the guy doesn't care about you, and if that's the case, maybe get out of that company. But if the people really care about you, if you just put all your efforts into making that company as good as you can make it, it'll probably get recognized, and
they take care of you.
Yeah, you might make more money than if you try to go out on your own and do your own investments when you really don't understand investing.
Because it's safer to make money with someone else's money. Yeah. Than risk your money, especially when you don't have a lot of it.
Yeah, and you don't know how to risk it. That's the nice thing of playing with other people's money is like, if you've got a good deal. I mean, you don't want to take somebody else's money if you're an idiot. You don't want to lose anyone money. But if you've got a good deal, give it to somebody else. Give a big chunk of it to someone else, mainly because they're going to fund it, and also like, you're going to get to learn on somebody else's dollar, which is cool. I know we're getting tight on time.
Yeah, no. We're good. I mean, I was looking at, I always like to close out the podcast with another question or two that I always like to end out. Yeah. I always like to close out. It's an important question for me is, what do you hope the audience learns from your story today, or, your advice? Like, what's, one advice you give to them, personal and financial, like something to where they should, this has worked for you. And, you feel like these are important, 2 steps, personal and financial for them to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, personally, I would say, something that I guess I wish that I was always better about is like being honest with yourself and being honest in general. When you're honest with yourself, it's actually a really difficult thing to do. If you look in the mirror and you don't like your appearance or you don't like where you are, or who the people you keep around you, your first approach to that is going to be like making excuses. I don't like my appearance. It's because I've got this I'm just really stressed out and I'm eating too much, or like I don't like the people I've got around me just because like this city sucks and they don't have anyone good here. Or I don't like how much money I've made because I grew up poor and I never had a chance in the first place. There's always going to be someone that can, there's an individual you can look to that shows you everything you just said isn't true, because there's somebody that had the exact same circumstances as you, but they were honest with themselves and they realized that they didn't appreciate that about themselves, and they made it a mission of theirs to change that.
They decided to take action, versus sit there and make excuses.
And we all hate parts of ourselves at times, and it's really hard to sit down and actually accept those things that we hate about ourselves as our own and say, yes, this is me. I do suck at blank, or I am, I'm 5'4", but I'm gonna make my effort to have a really good haircut and get jacked and dress well. You got to be honest and figure out where your shortcomings are, and if you can't fix them, then work around them. And if you can fix them, then go ahead and start working on them.
What else can you do to maybe make up for that? Right? If there's something that's out of your reach, right? Like we can't do anything about height. We can't do anything about sometimes.
Yeah, that's okay. You can find something else.
You grew up with, right? Or traumas that maybe someone has. Those will always be there. But what can you do to make yourself proud?
Right.
Change. You want to do this, okay? But I want to do this. I want to be this person. I want to earn this much. But what are you doing? What are you going to do to make that happen?
Right. How am I going to become that person?
Make it, take it into action, not just words. I've heard from some really rich dudes that I've been seeing videos lately, that what they did is that they recommended writing it down 20 times or 30 times in the morning and at night. What they wanted to do, what the car they wanted to drive, the house they wanted to do, what they wanted to earn. And he said that they made their clients do that because they did it and it worked for them, and they made their clients do it, and that they've changed so many people's lives because they made them write what they wanted 20, 30 times consecutively, morning and night.
Yeah.
To some extent, it's bringing it into.
Yeah, it's putting it into the subconscious, and then it starts appearing. Yeah, I would say definitely that for personal development, financial development. Learn what a good deal is. Learn how to buy things cheap, whether it's even going to get your groceries. Don't waste too much time on coupons, but if there's let's say you want to have a really high protein diet and you want to still be healthy, maybe you try to buy steak when it's on sale, or tons of cottage cheese because it's cheap. I guess that's just being cheap, and I don't always love being cheap, but trying to find things for a deal.
Right.
Buying a car, don't go buy a car for $30,000 brand new, paying 7% interest. Go find something on Facebook that gets you by, that's really worth 12, but you bought it for 7 in cash.
Because you have money in it. Versus you're gonna lose money.
Because if you can buy stuff for less than they're worth, you could argue that person's got infinite money. Because instead of if I found a truck worth $7,000, I found a $7,000 truck worth 12, I could just sell that, and now I have $5,000, and I can go buy a $5,000 truck that was free. So
you got to keep your $7,000.
Yeah, you got to keep your $7,000, and it
will it be as nice? No.
Right.
But it gets you from point A to point B. And you thank yourself because you're not giving money away.
Yeah, for something.
To someone else.
Yeah, and it's
to something that you can't afford. Because your brother told me, and it has stuck with me, and it's been helping me these past years, is do not buy a car if you can't pay it off cash. He says, don't finance. He said, because financing, you're putting money into someone else's pocket. Why? Because you can't afford it.
Yeah, the only reason they're offering that to you is just to make a little extra money. Most people want their money immediately, but they're like, yeah, I'm willing to not take that cash now if I can, get you a little bit on the interest.
7%, and
that's probably a good rate today.
Yeah, that's a good rate today. And 60 months. I mean, people say, oh, they don't understand it, but 7 times 5 is 35%.
Yeah, but it compounded. It might be like closer to 50 to 70.
And so they don't understand that they signed it. So they're like, oh, I said 7%. Okay, but they don't understand it. And I hear this. I didn't know it was like, why is it so much? I'm like, why isn't my
you pretty much paid for that car like 1 time and a half or 2 times.
And I was like, why? Because that guy doesn't mind letting you borrow it because he's paying off 2 of those cars with what you're paying.
Yeah,
and so he gets to keep it to some extent, like portfolio or equity, like asset wise, he gets to keep all these cars that everyone else is paying.
Exactly. Yeah, those are technically his cars. So yeah, try to buy everything for a deal. If you get in the practice of buying deals on small things, it'll be a lot easier to be ready. You'll be a lot more ready to take a deal on in real estate. If you've never been deal minded, and then you jump into real estate or stocks or something and think that this is going to be the first time you make a deal where you're literally competing with everybody else in the market for a deal. Right. I mean, I guess you're always competing with people, but like if you're buying a car or if you're buying a piece of furniture for a living room, there's a lot better chance that you're going to find a deal on that than on a piece of real estate. Yeah. So yeah, like whenever you're buying stuff for yourself, just always get in the habit of making it a deal.
Being subconscious of what else could you buy? Yeah. Like you're gonna buy this, but what could is there something cheaper? Mm-hmm. Does it make sense, or is it justifiable? Because sometimes, again, if you've worked hard, treat yourself also, but don't make it a habit.
Yeah, make sure if you're gonna waste money that it's not a waste of money. Like maybe having a nice car is something that finally makes you feel good about yourself, and it gives you a lot of pride, and you feel in a way better than the people around you. Right. It's not always good to feel that way, but like if it helps motivate you to do future work, better. They're like, well,
wow, maybe it's worth it. You get to see that car every day and say, okay, I spent a lot, but I'm going to work harder because I bought that car. So subconsciously, that you spent money.
And so people are noticing you in this Range Rover, and you're like, well, I don't want to be a fraud. I got to keep it up that I'm actually can afford something like this. So, in a way, a car's an investment if you look at cars that way. I don't really care about cars.
Better than, then do it. But if you're just going to do it to try to flaunt something that's not there, then don't do it.
Yeah. It's like the people wearing designer stuff and they can't afford it. It's like, what are you doing?
Right. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on today, Brian. I really do appreciate you making the time to come out here on the podcast and giving some good knowledge to our audience. And hopefully, I can have you back on sometime down the road towards the latter of the year. I think that you're one of those people that I have seen is changing a lot to where I can see you maybe being, changed at the end of the year or early next year. And, to some extent I've said that this podcast is like a time capsule because I want the audience to see, how my life's changing, taking it month by month or, every 3 months, but also being able to see some of our guests on here, the stuff we talked about, what's changed, at the end of the year, what else have you done? Because, I see you doing bigger things. We're doing things right now, right? How that plays out. And, just to see, to some extent you get to go on and see these videos and see, almost challenge yourself.
Yeah.
That you said that you were going to do this and this.
Yeah. I'm proud to have this memory locked in. It was my first time doing a podcast.
And you can come on there. No, I appreciate it, man. I really do. I love having guests on here, and I know you guys have to take time out of your schedule to come on here, but I think it's if one life we've changed or through this podcast we changed someone's life and they take this advice and they change, I'm like that's it's worth it, because who's to say if not just one person, if it's 10 or 20, right? All it takes is we don't know how much, but we know that if it does alter,
that would feel awesome. It's definitely worth the time.
And so it's been a pleasure. Thank you guys again for coming on here and always supporting the channel, and it's been a pleasure. Till next time, Brian.
And I was gonna. I know you asked for some hard information, and I was gonna give 3 books that I really liked for real estate investing, and I think these will just make you become a better investor. The first one is the Essays of Warren Buffett. Nobody understands investing better than this guy, and he is nice enough to send out an essay to his shareholders every year. You'd be a fool for not reading every one of them, in my opinion. He just comprehends things better than anyone else. The Real Book of Real Estate by Robert Kiyosaki, same guy that wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Right.
part of me feels like he's a salesman, but he actually did have some really good stuff in that book about just the different forms of real estate investing. So if you want some like hard information on like the different ways to make money in real estate, that one has it. And then there's a book called MBA in a Day. It's just kind of like some of the general things that you would learn in a Master's of Business. Okay. And that just kind of helps you be a little bit more well-rounded when it comes to business, which real estate is.
I'm gonna have to buy those because I've been trying to, get into some of these investors like books that people that have done well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know where to start.
Those essays are fun. I would start with that.
Yeah,
because it's a different one every chapter too.
Well, I appreciate it so much. Next time we have you on the show, I'd like to, again, it was great, hearing your story, giving advice, and next time maybe we say, bring some more books, a little bit more of our, get down and dissect,
Yeah.
Because again, it's a big subject.
We'll get dirty.
Yeah, but I appreciate it so much, guys. Y'all have a good rest of your day, and happy Sunday to everybody.